form, that means we got to get the y all by itself. What do we need to get rid of so that the y is by itself? The 2x. How do I get rid of that positive 2x? Yeah, I subtract 2x from both sides. So what do I end up with? Perfect. Okay, and now what do I do to get the y by itself? Divide by -3, and I divide everything by -3. What happens to an inequality when I divide or multiply by a negative number? Flip the sign. So it goes from less than to greater than. And now I have, right, those -3's canceled out there, so I just have y is greater than 12 divided by -3, -4. And what next? Good job, plus 2/3 x, right? Because we had that -2x over -3, so that turns into a positive 2/3 x. Good. Okay, so now I can really easily identify my slope and my y-intercept. What's my slope? Yeah, 2/3, right? It's the number right in front of the x. So 2/3, and that's my rise over run, right? So I'm going to go up 2/3. But just having the slope, the direction isn't enough. I need to know a starting point. What's my starting point? What's my y-intercept? -4. So that means I go to -4 on my y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I plot a point. And then I'm going to go up 2/3. And really, those 2 points are the only ones that fit on that graph. But what does it say to do next? What's my third step? Solid or a broken line. So remember, a broken line or dashed line or a dotted line, whatever you want to call it, is just for less than or greater than. It's like similar to when we use an open circle for a one variable inequality. And then a solid line, right, is for less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. It's like when we use a solid filled in circle. So what am I going to use for this instance? A broken line, yeah, a dashed line. So I do a dashed line between my 2 points. Okay, and then am I done? Is that it? What do I do now? Yeah, I got to plug in 0, 0, right? I got to test a point. And we use 0, 0 because it tends to be the easiest. And I'm going to take 0, 0, and I'm going to plug it into my inequality. I can use this rearranged inequality if I want to. I'm going to use my original inequality for a variety of reasons, but I'm going to use this top inequality. So 2x minus 3y is less than 12. Okay, so I'm plugging in 0 for x and 0 for y. So I end up with 2 times 0 minus 3 times 0. And what I'm doing is I'm checking to see, is this going to make my inequality true or false? So when I plug that in, right, 2 times 0 is, 3 times 0 is, 0 minus 0, 0. So I end up with this, 0 is less than 12. And again, I'm asking, is this true or is this false? It is, it's true, right? 0 is in fact less than 12. Therefore, since 0, 0 is a solution, that means all the points up here on the same side as 0, 0 is the solution. So I shade this whole top chunk. Okay? Are we okay on that? Cool. So your assignment today, that's the only time we're going to actually be given an inequality and need to graph it. The rest of these problems, I'm giving you a graph and asking you to write the inequality, okay? So this one up here, hello, we're doing the Wednesday paper. So my first step when I want to write the inequality is I got to look at my graph, and we're just going to write all of these in slope-intercept form. What two pieces of information do I need to write an equation in slope-intercept form? The slope and the y-intercept. So what is the slope of this line? Yeah, if I just look at 2 points on that line, I can tell that I have to rise up 2 and run over 3. So that's 2 over 3. And then what is my y-intercept? It's -2. Okay, so what's my equation going to be?
Y equals 2 over 3 minus 2.
What are you missing? Yeah, so 2 over 3x minus 2. But that's an equation, isn't it? And this isn't an equation, it's an inequality. So what do I need to change about this to make it an inequality? Yeah, I got to get rid of this equal sign, and I'm going to make it, right, I have 4 options, right? I can do less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. But just looking at the line eliminates 2 of those options. What could it not be? Just look at this line.
Equal to.
Yeah, it can't be one of the equal to's because this is a dashed line, isn't it? Dashed lines have to be less than or greater than. So I know for sure it's not going to be this one or this one. Okay? And this part, it's not confusing, but it's a little complicated. So just watch. So I'm still going to kind of do the same idea. I'm still going to pick a point and kind of test that point. So I'm still going to look at 0, 0. And the first thing I want to think about is 0, 0 a solution in this example? It's not, right? Because it's not in the shaded area, okay? So that means when I plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, I should end up with a false inequality. So what we're going to do is we're just going to simplify both sides of this, right? So if I plug in 0 for y, it just ends up as 0, right? But then if I plug in 0 for x, I'm going to end up with 2/3 times 0 minus 2. Yeah, and 2/3 times 0 is 0. What's 0 minus 2?
2,
-2. So on one side I have 0, and on the other side I have -2. Okay, and again, 0, 0 is not a solution. So that means I have to make this inequality false. So what am I going to use, the less than or the greater than? The less than. The less than. So the less than makes that false. So that means I just use less than in my inequality, and then that's my final answer. Do you have questions on that so far? I'm going to do 2 more examples with you. So the next one, I got this line. And what's my first step? What's the first thing I need to do? Yeah, find slope and y-intercept. So what's my slope here?
5 over 2.
Yeah, I go up 5 over 2. So my slope is 5 over 2. And what is my y-intercept? Perfect. So what would my equation be?
Y equals 5 over 2x minus 5.
Excellent. Good. 5 over 2x minus 5. But what do I need to change about this?
Give it an equal sign.
Okay, and then let's look at 0, 0. Is 0, 0 a solution? No, it's not. So that means I have to make my inequality false when I plug in 0, 0. So if I plug in 0, 0, I'm going to end up with 0 on one side, and then on the right-hand side, I have 5 halves times 0 minus 5. What's 5 halves times 0?
0.
And 0 minus 5 is? Yeah. So what, and should have done this first. Right? Those are my 4 options to start. but it's definitely not going to be this one or this one because it's a dashed line. It's got to be less than or greater than. And what am I going to use? I have to make this false. Yeah, less than, right? Does that make sense? So first check to see, is 0, 0 a solution? If it's not a solution, then I've got to make this like final inequality false. And that tells me what way to go. Okay. Okay, let's look at this last one together. So again, my first step, find slope, find y-intercept. What's my slope here? Yeah, good, -2/1. Maybe you saw -4/2. That would work as well, because that just simplifies to -2/1. So -2/1, or I could just write it as -2. And then what's my y-intercept? Good, 4. Daniel, you're on a roll today. Good job. What's my equation then?
Y equals -2/x.
Excellent. Okay, but I got to change out that equal sign, right? It's not an equal sign. And so I have 4 options to start with. Which 2 can I eliminate? Yeah, this one and this one I can eliminate, right? Because it's a solid line. Okay, and then if I look at 0, 0, is it a solution or not a solution? What? It is a solution. 0, 0 is a solution. So that means when I plug in 0, 0, it needs to create a true inequality this time. Okay, so if I plug in 0, 0, I have 0 there, 0 there. And on the left-hand side, it's just 0. On the right-hand side, I have -2 times 0 plus 4. What's -2 times 0? 0 plus 4. So how am I going to make this true? Do I need a less than or a greater than? A less than. So that's what I use up here. Are we okay? Does that make sense? Do you have any questions so far? No? Okay. So on the back, there are 7 graphs. 7 graphs. You do not, so if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you do not need to do number 5. Skip number 5. Don't do number 5. Okay, and when you look at this paper, please just double check that you have it the right way, because it's easy to, can I just put this up? Sorry. It's easy to look at it and think that that's the right way. I had someone do that first period and then they got them all wrong because they were looking at it upside down. Make sure it's the right way. You can tell by looking at the Y's. Okay. Okay, cool. You got the rest of class to do that. You can come up and ask questions and have me check your work if you want me to. When you're done with this one, you can turn it into the inbox. And then I'm going to have you start on this Thursday paper. The check for understanding questions, just numbers 1 and 2. Okay? Yeah, just bring it up to my desk. Please.